What up everyone, it's your man Xmanny87 here, bringing you another Marvel Legends video, and what I have for you today is the Marvel Legends Avengers Wave Puff Adder Build-A-Figure Series review. Before we get into everything, if you could please leave a thumbs up, like rating on the video, it'll help show your support for my channel and I greatly appreciate it. Now with that said, let's kick things off with my favorite Avenger, Ultimate's Captain America. Let's go! This letter on his head does not stand for France. Oh man, Ultimate Captain America was a beast. This is a fine head sculpt. I love the seams right there on the side, and it starts this textured pattern that we see on the sides right there. The ears don't look goofy. The head sculpt's nice. You see some expression sculpted above the eyebrows there. That looks good. Yeah, he looks mean, man. He looks serious. This is what I like to see in a Captain America head sculpt. You get nice seams and textures around the collar area and on the neck. That looks great. The scales on the body look so good. They're nicely defined. And you even get some shading right there on top of the bicep. And kind of wish that was spread throughout. That would have been nice. The paint job on mine is fair. I like the red badges on the deltoids right there. Get more nice seams and texture on the obliques and in the armpit area. This is so well done. The seam work and texture work throughout is just beautiful. Look at the stripes right there, and you even get it on his arms as well. Got nice sculpted gloves with pouches on them. This is just so nice. This is a new belt too, nicely sculpted, man. I like the pouches, buckles painted. He's even got a flask with the star on it. That's so cool. It always feels so rewarding when getting a brand new sculpt from scratch on comic book figures. Look at the wrinkles on the pants. And these are nicely sculpted boots. You can see the straps right there on top. I wish they painted the laces though. That would have been nice. For accessories, he's got to have a shield, right? I mean, that's mandatory on any Captain America figure. But I don't like the red on this. I feel like it's a little too dull, and I always feel that Captain America's shield, the red and blue, should match the costume. And here you can see that it doesn't. This is a darker red, and it still uses that stupid flip the clip system that I hate so much. And for hands other than his fist, he has a splayed out left hand and a gripping right hand, which has a vertical hinge. And lastly, he comes with an alternate angry expression, and I'm not a fan of this one. It sucks that I have a paint mishap right there on the letter A, but the teeth don't even look defined, so it looks like he's foaming at the mouth. I don't know. I just don't like it. Also, the 20th anniversary Steve Rogers head fits perfectly on this figure, and I think it looks really good. Articulation for Cap, his head is on a disc hinge, so he does look that far up, he does look that far down, left to right. He barely has any pivot. His arms move that far up, which is really good. That's higher than a straight T-pose. Great for Captain America. You can move him down, you swing him around. He still doesn't have butterfly joints, which is a bummer. You got the bicep swivel, double jointed pinless elbows that bend in real well. Look at that. So beautiful. Wrist swivel, wrist hinge. The articulation on the torso is not that great. I'm real bummed out about it. It moves that far down, which is barely anything. That far back, and it does swivel, and it pivots, and you can rock it around. My thing is, why didn't they add an ab crunch and a ball jointed waist? This is something I've been wanting on a Captain America figure forever, is a ball jointed waist. I mean, what's wrong with the ab crunch? It blends in with the stripes like you see on this Marvel Now Captain America. Even on the 20th anniversary one, it's fine for him to have an ab crunch and a ball jointed waist. I mean, this is important. He needs to pivot. He needs to crouch too, you know? He's a soldier, so this doesn't work for me. He does have a waist swivel. His legs spread about that far apart, and he can move his leg up about that high and move it that far back. He does rock his leg around. You got the thigh swivel, double jointed pinless knees, heel to the ultimate butt. Look at that. That's awesome, man. You got the boot swivel, ankles that move about that far up and that far down, and they pivot. I know I give Hasbro a lot of shit, but it comes from a place of love, tough love, and passion. When they do things right, I give them credit where credit is due. Our first comic pinless Captain America, despite some flaws, is still a win in my book. I'm rating Ultimate Cap a 9 out of 10. Next up, we're going to take a look at Extremis Iron Man. The head sculpt for the Extremis Iron Man is looking pretty good. I really like the eyes painted with this yellowish, whitish blend to it. Matches his repulsor tech node on his chest. I like the way the rest of the head is sculpted too. Got the ear discs right there, nicely sculpted all throughout. The black line work on the mouth and on the eyes are really nice. But other than the head, the rest of the figure is pretty disappointing, or underwhelming, I should say. And that's the bodywork to this. He looks so narrow and it doesn't feel like it's a guy in a suit anymore. And if I compare the last Iron Man figures next to him that came out, I mean, look at this. These look like guys in suits, and I like how angular the chest is. You see the legs in the crotch area are filled in. Like, what the hell is that? It's a major gap right there. So they were keeping the Iron Man bodies consistent throughout, and this guy just comes in and ruins that entire aesthetic. And he's definitely the smaller out of the bunch too. And just look how narrow the back is. And they gave him that neck gap like they did with Retro Spider-Man. Now with Retro Spider-Man, because he is a guy in a spandex suit, this works well more for Iron Man because of the aesthetic of his armor. I mean, it's still noticeable though. It is beneficial when you do move the head upwards, so it completely covers that. That's a good thing. When you did that with Spider-Man, it's still there. There's nothing to hide that gap. But the red on this figure just feels super flat and dull and bland. Like, look at the metallic red on the classic Iron Man, even the modular Iron Man, you know, it pops. This one doesn't. This makes it look like cheap plastic. You get some metallic gold painted on the biceps. Forgot to mention, you get the metallic gold painted on his faceplate too, which is nice. You get the metallic gold on his legs. But you see what I'm saying? Look how bad that gap is on the crotch area. I was like, holy crap. Why is it not filled in? Look at this. It comes close together. You know, you look at the classic Iron Man, you know, even the Alex Ross version. I mean, yeah, it's a little gappy, but not this bad. And the arms look better than the legs for sure. I like the way they painted that right there. Sculpted legs, I mean, they look fine for the most part. Here are the feet. The feet always looked funky to me. Always looked like he had 2 toes in the comics. And yeah, that's it. And for accessories, he has 2 open hands with the repulsor ray effects, and he does have hinges on them. Let's go over articulation for Extremis Iron Man. His head, I showed you before, looks up that far, which is really good. And it moves down, it moves left and right. He does move his arms real high, higher than a T-pose. That's always a good thing. These shoulder pauldrons do flex in, they're pliable. So only thing, if you keep them there for long, they're gonna warp. You can move his arms around. He doesn't have butterfly joints. You got a bicep swivel. You got double jointed pinless elbows that got some range, and you got a wrist swivel, wrist hinge. The diaphragm joint is one of the worst on an Iron Man figure. I mean, you're only gonna get that much for it. Now I know if you mod it, you could get more range. But when I review a figure, I'm showing you how you would get it out of the box. He moves that far back. He swivels and he pivots a good amount, and you could rock it around. This frustrates me because we could have gotten the best bend ever if they did a ball jointed waist. This cut is perfect for a ball jointed waist for them to apply it. Why didn't they apply it? Import Figures laid the blueprint on how to make the best Iron Man figures. Why didn't they just follow through, you know? Hasbro is a multi-billion-dollar company. They have the resources to do it, and they just won't do it. The sad thing is they can, but they won't. For the legs, he's got these hip discs. The good thing is that you can flip them upwards, so you can get those leg spreads, and, you know, spreads about that far up. He does kick up real high, and he does kick that far back. I mean, that gap area does help with flexibility. Maybe they wanted that to get that 3-point stance pose. They could have found a way to make it work. That's where the drop down hip mechanics would have benefited, in my opinion. And his legs do rock around. You got the thigh swivel, double jointed knees. So yeah, the anatomy is way off there. And then you have his ankles that move that far up and they move down real low and they pivot. You get some good features and some bad features. Both the good and bad tag team together, leading to an underwhelming result of a mediocre figure. This figure definitely doesn't follow after the recent solid Iron Man releases. I'm rating Extremis Iron Man with a 6.5 out of 10. Moving from two of the biggest Avengers to now one of the biggest Avengers villain, we're gonna look at Baron Wolfgang von Strucker. Ever since World War II, Baron Strucker has been causing misery and destruction, first as the Red Skull's second in command, later as ruler of the terrorist group Hydra. It might be due to losing his position as a prince in the Prussian dynasty, or maybe he's just a real jerk. He wants total chaos and anarchy, and absolute control of the world. He also wants Nick Fury dead and all forms of democracy crushed. Baron Strucker is a highly intelligent man in peak human physical condition. He is an exceptional hand-to-hand combatant, swordsman, and marksman. He is also a consummate military strategist and spy, and a master of disguise and an excellent actor. He carries a sword and traditional firearms, but also wears the Satan Claw on his right hand. This metal gauntlet amplifies his strength and emits powerful electrical shocks. Strucker also uses serums developed by Hydra, enabling him to maintain his physical vigor at its height and retard his aging process, so that physically he remains the same, despite his advanced chronological age. Exposure to his death spore has bonded Strucker's DNA with the death spore, enabling him to be revived after seemingly being killed by gunshot wounds and radiation poisoning. Strucker can now release the death spore virus from his body at will, killing his victims nearly instantly. If Strucker is killed, the death spore viruses will allegedly be set free from his body and risk infecting the entire Earth. Alright, so the one thing I was wondering if this head sculpt would top the Toy Biz head sculpt, because that was just a perfect head sculpt. However, it was severely undersized. And now that I have this one in hand, you know what? I gotta say, I like this one more because of the head size. Now, if that Toy Biz head sculpt was upped in scale to pretty much be proportionate to the body, it's the perfect head sculpt, man. But I gotta go with the proportions, and this one is just so good. I love the scarring right there on his head, the wrinkles throughout. This just looks so good. The monocle on his eye being a clear plastic, you could see, how big the eye sculpt is underneath that, or eye paint, whatever. It just looks so good. I actually like that his teeth are defined, not like that Captain America we just looked at, so he doesn't look like he's foaming at the mouth. Overall, I'm extremely happy with this head sculpt. Wow, they even give him wrinkled folds on the back of the head right there. That's brilliant. And then he's got some fashion taste here with this fancy scarf, and you can see has a medallion right there and some ropes sculpted. That looks nice. But look at that Hydra logo. It's painted beautifully. That looks so good. Alright, the green and yellow combos, even mixed in with the black there. It looks so nice. This is just damn good paintwork right there. Then here's a Satan Claw, and look at the love and care they put into this sculpt. It is so nice. My only gripe is that it's not painted in a metallic red, it's just a plastic red. It doesn't even have a metallic sheen to it. I mean, it's kind of there. It's very subtle. Also, I do wish he had a closed fist for the gauntlet. That would have been nice. Here's the belt with the H right there. Black painted around it. I like to keep the belt high. But when articulating it, you got to shift it down to swivel the waist so that it stays in place. Because if it's upwards and you swivel it, that H is gonna pop out, and that just looks awkward as hell. So you already know this body being the Spider UK body, but what they did with this guy, just as well as they did with the Fang figure from the Cha'ad Build-A-Figure wave, they gave him the Vulcan arms, and they retooled the legs to be pinless. So that Vulcan forearm cut is perfect for gloves. You can see the yellow painted with the green. I love the color combos to this. The green plastic on the kneecaps and the elbows are off from the rest. So that is a bummer right there. But yeah, yellow and green boots right there. And that's it. And for accessories, he comes with these two twirling flaming effects in purple to decorate his Satan Claw. So Yeah, that's about it. Wish he had more effects. And when I say more effects, I meant to have electrical effects, because that's what the Satan Claw really pumps out, is electrical shocks. And I grabbed this from the Power Rangers Lightning collection, I believe Astronema or Andromeda, whatever her name is. Also, this is pretty cool for a straightforward electrical shock. I believe this came with Scorpina or Goldar, one of them. Skipping articulation for this guy, as you already know how this body works, but man, combining the two blast effects like this just makes it look so much sweeter. The Baron is one of my favorite Avengers villains, and I'm satisfied with the way this figure came out. Could have used more accessories, but it's pretty comic accurate, and it's a must-have for the Hydra shelf. The pristine paint on mine gives this figure a big boost. I'm rating Baron Wolfgang von Strucker with an 8 out of 10. Next up, we're taking a look at one of the most obscure Marvel characters out there, Orb. Unlike the original Orb, Drake Shannon, this Orb does not wear an eyeball-themed helmet and was instead born with a head in the form of a giant eye. His bizarre deformity caused him to be abandoned at an early age, and he wound up being raised in a freak show. His real name is unknown and may very well be simply the Orb. He eventually became a mercenary of sorts, wielding his so-called repulsor ray pistol. Alright, you can see why they call him the Orb. He's just the big eyeball. But I really like the eye pupil painted right there. That looks so good. And then the pre-orbital veins, while painted nicely, unfortunately, it doesn't continue throughout. It just stops midway right there, and that's bummer, because they could have had something special going on with that extending all over. And that's pretty much it. The head is the only new thing going on for this figure. Maybe the collar piece right here, but he's on the Bucky Cat mold, so you already know how this works. And then you got the white Buccaneer boots and the gloves. He does have some nice paint apps, but I'm calling it now. With this head, we're definitely going to get an 8-ball figure, and I'm excited for that. Lastly, he comes with his repulsor pistol, which is a new sculpt, and it does look nice. Even on the front part, they sculpted those little rivets on there. But this is the only accessory he comes with. Skipping articulation, again, you know how this body works, but if you want to see how the head works, then, you know, his head can only move that far up and that far down. Of course, it moves left and right, no pivot. However, he does use a bike in the comics to go up against Ghost Rider, since he's a Ghost Rider villain, and I had to give him a bike, so I just gave him the Logan bike, and yeah, this looks really cool. Makes the figure look so much better. The repulsor ray pistol and the head with a nicely painted iris and veins are the highlight, but even with that, they half-assed it by not continuing the paint of the pre-orbital veins around the head. It's like the effort they put into painting the veins all around is the same minimal effort they put in when assigning a Bucky Cat mold on a figure. They just didn't care, so in turn, I won't care. My rating for Orb is a 5 out of 10. Next up, the only female in the wave, the badass Yelena Belova. Yelena Belova was trained and brainwashed by the Red Room and made it her mission to defeat Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. Yelena faced adversity being in a corrupted shield. She was burned alive by Sauron in the Savage Land, which made Hydra set her up as the new super adaptoid to take on the Avengers, but was disposed of. She was revived by AIM's Scientist Supreme and would become AIM's Minister of State. Natasha helped Yelena move away from Russia and the Red Room. Now Yelena is known as the White Widow and Natasha's ally. This is a damn good comic accurate head sculpt. Look at the mask and the details on that gunmetal metallic paint with the red metallic paint. And then you get her pale skin. That's just like the comics when she was revived by AIM. Black lipstick is looking real good too with that smirk. And her hair is nice and flowy too. And then the body is the same as the Target exclusive Black Widow in white. The only thing is we get a new upper torso. So you get some seam work and some texture right there on the upper collar area. And then, you know, wrinkles throughout the sides of her chest and the back. It's not a bad body, as she's supposed to look like she's in a suit, so I like seeing the wrinkled textures throughout. It's the legs that's the biggest problem for me. He got these bad bow-legged legs, and it just looks terrible. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pop this head on the new super articulated Black Widow figure that's coming out with the double diaphragm joint, butterfly joints, double pinless elbows and knees. So I'm going to buy 2 of those Black Widows to have a super articulated Yelena Belova. I felt like this figure wasn't needed in the wave, not because of the character choice. She's a great character choice to have in this wave. But I felt like they could have saved this head as an alternate head for that super articulated Black Widow body. Because now you got a character here with limited articulation when she should be as mobile as that Black Widow. But the add-on piece here with the belt connected to the holster and the thigh strap, that looks really good. Some nice paint apps there. The Black Widow logo paint looking really nice. And since she used Black Widow stingers in the past, if you want to add a little more fun to this figure, you can give her the Black Widow stingers from the gray Black Widow or the ones without them, however you want to display your figure. Now for accessories, besides closed fists, she comes with these 2 trigger hands that holds the smaller pistol and her silencer, and she also has 2 pink muzzle effects that you could plug into them. It also comes with 2 smoke effects as well. The silencer fits in her holster, no problem. Lastly, she comes with a sniper rifle, and you can also plug in one of the effects on it. And I actually like this rifle much more than the one that came with the Black Widow because you actually get some paint on it. And with the strap on the sniper, you could wrap it around her torso to make her look more equipped. Let's go over articulation with Yelena Belova, and with this flowing hair, it does give her some wiggle room to look a little bit up, not much, but you know, it's something better than most females. And then she looks down that far, left, right, slight pivoting. Her arms do move very high up, which is great, and they move down. You can rotate them around. She's got the elbow swivel, single jointed elbows, wrist swivel, traditional wrist hinge for the trigger hand on the left, vertical hinge for the trigger hand on the right, and traditional hinges for both closed fists. Torso only moves that far forward, that far back. It swivels, it pivots, and it rocks around. You can spread her legs about that far, and she kicks about that far up and that far back. You might get a higher kick with this leg just because this holster strap can hinder the movement on this a bit. Not by much, but it will look awkward when this belt is completely shifting up close to her chest. And then her legs can rock around, thigh swivel. You got her double jointed knees, and you got the ankles that move up, down, and they pivot. The most loaded with accessories in the wave, making her a lot of fun. Yelena still makes for a good figure reusing that White Widow body, just gotta manage the warped legs to straighten them out once in a while. But they could have waited a bit to sport the new super articulated female body after Black Widow. I'm going high with an 8 out of 10 for Yelena. Now we move to the West Coast to show some West Coast Avengers love with Wonder Man. Simon Williams, aka Wonder Man, was made into a being of pure ionic energy by Baron Zemo, becoming the impossibly powerful Wonder Man. Meant to aid the Masters of Evil in their campaign against the Avengers, Wonder Man found himself sympathizing with the heroes and joined their team instead. He has remained an Avengers mainstay ever since, despite his constant insecurities and battles with his own mortality. He is also the brother to Eric Williams, known as the supervillain Grim Reaper. This is another good head sculpt in the wave. I do like this classic Wonder Man look. He's got that cheesy Wonder Man smile. I like the clear glasses. You can see the red out eyes underneath. It just looks really good. I like the hairstyle too. Yeah, I'm really pleased with this. So this look is going off his classic West Coast Avengers look when he was pursuing a career in Hollywood. He's mainly used the Red Skull body parts. So you got the Red Skull arms, the pants, and the boots. This turtleneck piece is new, so he has a new torso there. And this jacket piece right here is new. But yeah, this is pretty much comic accurate. They reused Captain Marvel's Nega bands here, and you know what? They fit perfectly. It's a good choice. I would have reviewed this wave a lot sooner, but my first Wonder Man actually broke at the boot right here. It just snapped, so I had a way to get a replacement. But everything's fine right now, and I'm happy about that. For accessories, he comes with these 2 action hands to alternate with his fists. And lastly, he comes with these 2 muzzle effects that are used to plug into his belt. And these are kind of a pain in the ass. So he's got these ports underneath his belt, and you could just slide them in. Sometimes they don't fit in right away. You got to get a good angle on it like that. This way you can display them in flight, and it just doesn't look good. It looks cheap. They should have just made new effects that just spread out a little bit longer. Let's cover articulation for Wonder Man. His head is on a ball joint, so he looks that far up. Not good for flight. And he doesn't look that far down. It's okay. But left, right, He pivots nicely, rocks around. You got his arms that move about that far up, slightly higher than a T-pose, or straight as a T-pose. Moves down, swing him around, bicep swivel, double jointed pinless elbows, great range there, wrist swivel, wrist hinge. The torso area sucks because this jacket hinders mobility, so you're only going to get an ab crunch moving that far forward and about that far back. That's it. The jacket seems pliable enough to get more range. I don't know if it's the newly sculpted torso underneath that's limited. Actually, let's put that to the test because I still have my damaged one. So before I send it back, I cut the jacket here. As you can see, it's already broken. So yeah, the same movement back without the jacket, and forward the same. So it's just this sculpted torso. So yeah, there you go. There's your answer. The torso just sucks. He's got a waist swivel. His legs move that far apart, and he does kick up a decent amount and kicks that far back, so you won't get a full wide or frontward split. His legs can rock around. You got the thigh swivel, double jointed knees, oh so close to heel to the wonder butt, and then you got the calf swivel, ankles that move that far up, they move down, and you got the ankle pivot. Alright, so they knocked it out of the park with this classic look, but some of the features didn't look properly executed, like the effects for the flight belt, and it doesn't articulate well, hurting flight poses, which didn't make him look wondrous. Worst of the wave, I'm rating Wonder Man with a 4 out of 10. Next up, another major villain in the wave, Molecule Man. Owen Reese, aka Molecule Man, is an immensely powerful and chronically insecure character. He has the power to control all matter and energy. Although often cast as a misunderstood villain, he has also at times acted as a hero. Taking an up-close look at Molecule Man's head sculpt, yeah, it's alright, you know, he looks a little confused, which is, I mean, he's no stranger to the character. Feeling that way, the scarring came out pretty cool. And the hairdo's kind of funky, you know, he always had a weird hairdo. I feel like it's more defined in the back than it is the front and the sides. And then here are the tips of the hair. So yeah, you know, it's an okay head sculpt. I wish this figure had an alt head with some powered up glowing pink eyes to make him look more evil. And this is another figure in the wave using the Red Skull legs and the arms, but we do get a newly sculpted torso here. So you can see his lightning strip right there on his torso, which is pretty cool, kind of pliable too. It's neatly sculpted as well. It's a very shiny purple plastic to it. But check this out, look at his skirt piece right here, where the lightning strip is actually sculpted and not painted. What? Usually Hasbro takes the painted route, but having something sculpted like this just... Nah, it just adds more to the aesthetic. I love it. More of this, please. Then he's got his gripping action hands and purple boots. That's pretty much it. For accessories, he comes with 2 closed fists and then these flaming accessories in purple that we've seen 100 times over. They always do this to characters that are like overpowered. They just make an overpowered character look underpowered, giving them shit like this. Let's go over Molecule Man's articulation, and he's actually on a double ball peg at the neck. So this is nice. So, you know, you get nice up movement, down movement, alright. But, you know, he does tilt really nice, so that's really cool. They could have put a little more room for the neck to breathe, because as you can see, you get some scuffing right there at the neck. So that's a bummer. Ab Crunch moves that far forward and that far back, so way better range than Wonder Man. Same limbs as Wonder Man, so for time's sake, we're gonna skip the articulation since you already seen it. Another classic look they nailed down, but could have used an alternate head too and introduce a new larger energy effect instead of the same reused flames. A much needed important character to have in the line. Same limbs as Wonder Man, but he articulates better at the neck and the torso, so I'm giving Molecule Man a final rating of 6 out of 10. It's bath time! Gordon Fraley, aka Puff Adder, is a member of the Serpent Society. He has the ability to expand his size and musculature. He also can spew an acidic cloud from his mouth at a very close range. Alright, the head sculpting underneath the helmet here looks superb. That's some incredible sculpting right there. Yeah, the helmet looks kind of cheesy. If you painted a domino mask on it, it'll look like one of those goofy Ninja Turtle Halloween masks. But, you know, it fits here for the character at least. Take a look at that side profile there with the fangs. That looks pretty cool. And then you get some wrinkles on the back right there. You get some sculpting on top right there to give the snake helmet some more expression. So overall, I think this looks pretty good. Alright, so Puff Adder here is on the Caliban bath body. Only difference is that he has new hands and new feet. As you can see, Caliban had those 2 toes and he had those clawed hands. And you guys know how I love to document shit in the Marvel Legends timeline. This body, the Caliban bath body, hasn't been used in 4 years. Yes, that's right. Caliban came out in 2019. And since then, we have yet to get this body until now. And this was one of the bodies that was very desired to get Riot on. He should have been on this body in gray. I mean, I already said that in this review, but it's just crazy. It just baffles me how, you know, they have good bodies just laying out there on the bench for characters and they don't use them. Anyways, bottom line, I'm happy to see this Caliban bath body mold getting love again. This is one of their best big brute bodies. I mean, it looks powerful. And it's got a great big upper body, you know, the chest is puffed out, the obliques are just going angular with the chest, complementing the chest, and the deltoid muscles too look good, you know, they're not drooping, they're not dipping low, the traps flow nicely, everything is just good about this mold. I don't like the glossy finish here. What the hell is this? You know, he has a glossy ass torso and the rest is like a matte finish. Why isn't the torso in a matte finish, you know? You get a matte finish paint with this pattern right here, which, I mean, the paint looks good though, even on the wrists right there. So, you know, he's got a nice color scheme and he got his closed fist right there. You know, here are the legs. The paint pattern on the boots are rough. They're not as smooth and clean as the wrist. It looks like there's a lot of dry paint rub there. It looks like an amateur customizer worked on this, to be honest. And here are the new feet with regular looking shoes, and that's it. Now for accessories, he comes with 2 open hands. This one has a traditional hinge, and the right hand has a vertical hinge. So this is good for like choke lifting an opponent or something like that. Covering articulation for Puff Adder, his head is on a disc hinge, so he looks far a good amount, and then he looks down a good amount too. You got left-right movement, and he does kind of pivot. His arms move about that far up, slightly higher than a T-pose. That's good for a big body buck like this. Down, you can swing them around. You got the bicep swivel. You have the single jointed elbows, you got the wrist swivel, wrist hinge. Ab crunch moves that far forward, that far back. That's great. Never had a problem with the ab crunch on this body. Waist swivel. His legs can move about that far apart. That's real good. And he can kick up that high, kick that far back, and his legs rock around. You got the thigh swivel, double jointed knees, and heel to the puffy butt. Look at that. Calf swivel. Ankles move that far up, they move down, and he has the ankle pivot. Great to see the Caliban bath body getting love again, and it fits Puff Adder's stature. The paint is good from top, but not the bottom. The plastic colored tones are off. The superb head sculpt made this more likable for me. Not the best bath ever, but a decent one. I'm scoring Puff Adder with a 7 out of 10. Now for some comparisons, here is Ultimate Cap next to the 20th Anniversary Classic and Marvel Now Cap. Here is Extremis Iron Man next to the Hulkbuster by Sentinel. Here is Baron Wolfgang von Strucker next to some former leaders of Hydra, Red Skull and Madam Hydra. We have the Orb next to Ghost Rider. Here we have Yelena Belova next to the AIM Scientist Supreme. Here is Wonder Man next to some of his fellow West Coast Avengers. Here is Molecule Man next to the Fantastic Four. Lastly, here is Puff Adder next to some other Serpent Society members. Even though Constrictor wasn't officially a Serpent member, he was still affiliated with them in storylines, so he's with them on my shelf, plus it makes the team look cooler. And now to wrap things up, my final rating as a collective is a 6.75 out of 10. It's good to have an all-comic Avengers wave with a good blend of classic and the right selection of a few modern takes. Am I extremely satisfied with this wave? No, but you know what? I'm pretty content with this wave. I'm actually more content with this wave than the X-Men Cha'ad Build-A-Figure wave. A better balance of accessories, no one feels out of place. Sure, I'd rather have the Beyonder over Orb, but Orb was also an Avengers villain too, so he fits. Way more comic accuracies, could have used more heads, but at least one figure comes with an extra head, something that we didn't get in the Cha'ad wave, and thankfully a better bath too. Some figures here that I'm very excited to add to my shelves, like Wonder Man with my West Coast Avengers, Baron Von Strucker with my Hydra, Yelena Belova to add onto my AIM shelf because that needs bolstering, Extremis Iron Man in my Hall of Armor, Molecule Man with my supervillains, Orb with my Marvel Knights or supervillains, Puff Adder with my Serpent Society. There's only one that I don't have a place for yet, and that's Ultimate Cap, which I'll have to wait for the Ultimates team to round out. I'll just add him in my Shield shelf for now. Hopefully an Ultimate Giant Man is somehow offered in a HasLab Giant Man project because you can't have that team without him. Again, I'm content with this wave, but we need to hold Hasbro to higher standards so that these comic waves can stand out. This year has been nothing but movie-heavy waves, and another one or two Disney Plus waves are on the horizon. This and the X-Men wave are the only comic BAF waves for the year so far. Hope to see some more comic BAF waves hit and deliver much needed and desirable characters with newer scopes to add to the collection. I think this is one of the better all-comic Avengers waves they've constructed, and so far, I'm enjoying it. Now I kick it back to you. What are your thoughts on this Avengers wave? What should be the next theme for a comic Avengers wave? Should they go for Ultimates after this Cap release? Comment below, let me know, we'll chat about it. That was my review. Please follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at xman87. Hit the notification bell so you always know when my latest videos are up. Share and subscribe if you're new. See you on the next review. Peace, peace.